this meeting of the local review body of the 11th of March. Can I first ask members to appoint the chairman for the meeting?
Could I nominate Councillor Witts?
Can I second that?
Councillor Witts, are you willing to accept the nomination?
I'll just put my card in this machine. I'll have to take it again. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Second item on the agenda. Now that we've appointed a chair, are there any apologies?
No apologies today, Chairman. No, presently correct.
Thank you. Third item, any declarations of interest? None? Thank you. Fourth item, which is the first to be considered today, Carnalloch House, Kirkton, Dumfries. Refusal of planning permission for change of use of residential home class 8 to form 6 dwelling houses, erection of 4 terraced dwelling houses, 4 detached dwelling houses, and 1 caretaker store, and formation of access track and landscaping. Yes, could you take us through the procedure, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Right, I can confirm the main points in your documents and that you've got all the contents of the documents for this item are your notice of review, report on handling and relating correspondence. You have the observations of the appointed officer on the applicant's notice of review and further comments from interested parties. Comments of applicant's agent on observations of the appointed officer, the planning application form and supporting documents, decision notice from Dumfries and Galway Council, and the relevant extracts from the Dumfries and Galway local development plan, as well as photos of the application site and locality. The grounds of refusal are on page 162, these being that the proposal fails to achieve the high standard of design quality required within the curtilage of a Category A listed building, thereby adversely affecting the setting of this nationally important listed building, contrary to the local development plan policies OP1, OP2 and HE1, and contrary to the requirements of acceptable enabling development as set out in Scottish Planning Policy 2014. The requested method of determination is on page 8. The applicant has requested that the review be dealt with on the basis of 1 or more hearing sessions. If the grounds stated in the notice of review, pages 7 to 13, are in summary, all technical issues relating to the development have now been resolved. The principle of the need of new build enabling development is accepted. The location of the new build units in the southwest paddock has been agreed as the only area on site. The only outstanding issue is the design and detail of the new build elements of the proposal. I ask that if Council supports the concept to save Carnalloch House, consider approving the proposal stating any conditions required about the changes needed to the design and detail of the new build elements. And if the submission is refused, the Historic Scotland grant will be withdrawn. We have further comments of interested parties, comments of the appointed officer, comments from the flood risk management team, comments from the landscape architect, comments from AC Wolf, and you have comments of the applicant's agent on the observations of the appointed officer and interested parties. You also have extracts of all the relevant development plan policies. So the main issues that the local review body may wish to consider are: is the principle of the enabling development at this location supported? If so, in terms of design of new build units, does the proposal conform with the relevant development plan policies? If not, are there any material considerations which would indicate that planning permission should be granted to the contrary? Having outlined the documents within the members' papers, it now falls to the LRB to determine whether it has sufficient information to consider the review. It is confirmed that no representations from any party will be heard today. The options available to the local review body for this and the following cases today are that it can decide that it has sufficient information before it to enable it to determine the review today, request further information in the form of written representations. The LRB would have to state precisely what information it was seeking and who must provide it. Resolve to hold a hearing, again specifying who will be invited to speak and on what matters. Or resolve to hold a site visit, accompanied or unaccompanied. This can be done in conjunction with any of the above, but would obviously not allow a decision to be made today. If the local review body resolves it has sufficient information and that no further procedure is required, then the local review body has the powers to uphold, reverse, or vary a determination. The decision notice will include a statement of the terms in which the planning authority has decided the case reviewed. You have planning advisors present at your meeting today. They are here to assist in all the items, and it is confirmed that they have not had any respective involvement in any of the cases and were not the case officer or the appointed officer for any of the relevant applications. They are here purely to provide independent advice as needed on matters of planning policy, law, or process of the local review body. So if members are here, clear, and if no further clarification is required, I will ask the chairman now to lead the debate and in the first instance to lead the local review body through the agenda papers together and decide if it has sufficient information for it to make the determination today.
Thank you. Therefore, the first thing I must do is ask members if you consider you have sufficient information before you to enable you to determine the review today. What's the opinion of members? I stand corrected. I'm sorry.
Sorry, the chairman may wish to lead the local review body through the agenda papers to decide whether they have sufficient information.
Yes, thank you. We'll do that now. Okay. So you have before you the papers, all 550 pages of them. This first item is from page 1 to 182. So page 3, the notice of review, refusal of planning permission. That's page 5 to 13. Any comments? Yes, Councillor McComb.
Are we simply considering at this stage whether there is sufficient information?
That's correct. Yes.
And we will go back to discussion at a later point.
That's my understanding. I'm leading you through the papers, and at the end of that, I shall then, as I was correctly interrupted, that I will then ask the question if you consider the information after we've combed through them.
Thank you.
Right. Then, Councillor Hislop.
Chair, it's with regard to the review notice, page 12. Our suggested way to move forward is to approve, but then for dialogue later. If we approve today, can we have dialogue later to look at the design, or is it a case of it's either approved or used?
My understanding would be that if we approved, it would be subject to dialogue, but see where you're coming from. Planning advisor.
You basing the review on what you've got today. You can decide to approve it. You can add conditions, but you're really deciding on the information you've got.
Yes.
Going back to a planning application compared to a review, planning application, you don't have the ability to negotiate a position, i.e. you can't say, well, actually, we like the idea, but we would like to see a better design, therefore we put a condition on. That would change the full planning thing. Have we that power today? Because I think it said somewhere in the notes that we have full power to vary anything.
Is that correct?
No, you just determine it on, as you would like planning application, determine it on what's in front of you there. You can ask by condition for further detail, but it's not a negotiable. Determine it.
Happy? So. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. So in effect, we can only go on the information that's before us today, should we decide to do so. But we could effectively rebuild the decision based on what we've got in front of us, should we need to. And in doing so, then determine whether or not something should be a condition, or that condition that's, you know, in that way, as a effectively like planning committee can do.
Well, my attempt to provide a bit of clarity here. You're going on the information that you have in front of you. If you decide that's enough information to make a decision, then you can either uphold the decision with the same reasons that the officer gave, vary, which we would still be refusing the application, but for different reasons, come to same end result but for different reasons, or grant it, reverse, grant the application but then you give conditions. If you decided that you didn't have enough information to make any of those choices, you do have the different options available with further information, as I outlined, written procedures, site visit, or hearing.
Okay. Shall we go on to the next section then, which is pages 15 to 67, report on handling and related correspondence. Before I let you in, Councillor Hislop, I'll use Chairman's prerogative and ask page 17, can I have a definition of a non-inventory designed landscape? Do you want to come back to that, and I'll take Councillor Hislop's question. Councillor Hislop.
Just with regard to the consultations, Historic Scotland 2.1, it says no objection, yet within their letter we have considered your consultation and support this proposal. So it's actually a support rather than a no objection.
that be a fair comment? Sorry, I'm overloading you.
Be- the Historic Scotland usually get involved in the building application. That's already been determined in this case, and we're looking at the planning permission. So although they provide their comments on the setting of the impact it will have on the setting of the category A of the building, they don't actually get involved in wanting to put forward if they support it or object to it. They're just there to give their views in terms of that.
But if we have a planning application and Historic Scotland don't like it, they usually put forward, we object to this. Now they're saying they actually support this proposal. A couple of sort of queries about the thing, but they actually support the proposal that is in front of us today, yet got a whole list of things whereby we're basing our refusal of it on is actually from a letter of support for the proposal.
From reading the comments of Historic Scotland, they're supporting the principle of enabling development, but raising concerns about the impact that the scheme will have on the
I see you, Councillor McComb. I was going to ask planning if she's got to the bottom of this non-inventory designed landscape. Or I'm not. If it's not. I don't think it's of crucial interest. But I'll give it something.
So I was looking for the exact word in here. The inventory of gardens and design landscapes in Scotland identifies sites of national importance for a range of designed or ornamental landscapes. If it's non-inventory, it's not as designed or as ornamental.
Councillor McComb.
Thanks, Chair. I've got problems with this letter from Historic Scotland because to me the message is unclear. This is on page 64. Now, they suggest either this is for the new build component, a simplified design which reflects the proportions and materials of the original building, or a group of overtly high-quality contemporary villas. Now, if I was the developer, I wouldn't know what Historic Scotland are looking for here. They say that there is a lack of detail which was apparent in the borough developments of the 1960s, but yet they look for a simplified design. And I can quite understand why the developer in the notice of review says they're going round in circles. There is no, as Councillor Hislop said, there is no formal objection from Historic Scotland, but precisely what they are seeking is very unclear, certainly to my reading of the response.
Yes, thanks for that. No doubt we'll consider that when we move on to deciding what action we're going to take once we've gone through these papers. Anyone else? Yes, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Just on the delegated report, I appreciate this has been a lengthy application process for officers and the developer. But we seem to be and this is where I sometimes have a confusion just because of the local development plan, but we've got a letter from Historic Scotland from 2012 saying there's no objection, but we've got some thoughts about enabling development, etc. But the decision is based on the 2014 LDP and the policies therein. So I'm just seeking a wee bit of guidance on whether or not the delegated report is built up in a Timaeus way, whereby are we considering it under what was previously the development plan for the area, as it were, or are we considering it under the LDP, which is the sort of rationale for coming to the decision that's been arrived at? And the sort of bricks that build up that decision are pre-LDP, if that makes any sense, contained in the delegated report. So it's just to get a wee bit of clarity on if that's the not. I mean, and obviously it's unusual because we didn't have an LDP before in 2012, but we're working towards it. So it's just really to get a bit of a steer on that from the planning officer, if that's possible.
Planning officer.
The assessment is based on the LD policies as outlined in the section 4. Discussions from the report have taken place prior to this, but the assessment was made on those policies. In terms of design, there's not too many differences in between what the old policies were and the LDP, but the assessment was made on the LDP policy.
Want to come back?
Thank you. And that then heightens the application date, which is 2012, and the decision date, which is over 2 years later in 2014. And I'm just kind of, are we confident we have a safe decision in that respect, given the time that's passed between a valid submission and a decision? Or is it just one of those things?
Planning.
It probably is one of those things in terms of timing, but from reading the report and the decision, I think we've got a safe decision on the policies that have been assessed against.
Councillor Hislop.
Chair, if we go back to the applicant part, he says that he submitted draft.
What page is that, Councillor Hislop?
Page 11 was draft form submitted the 3rd of April, seeking comments from D&G planners and H&S before proceeding to full presentation drawings. Constructive comments were received from DG planners, but HS only made minor comments. So from going from the draft to the full thing, we see a slight change in historic Scotland. I would have thought there would have been similar comments to what were expected. Why the change there? I think we need to know why that change is there, because currently we don't. I don't know if there's enough information in that letter from Historic Scotland to actually give us the reasoning behind their change in position from, well, if you tweak a wee bit to need to either be similar or totally different to the current building as it comes out in September. I have a feeling that there's a lack of information in that letter from Historic Scotland to allow us to know why they're wanting it turned down, because they're not objecting, but to me that's a case of confusing that one.
Saying it's an aye, but.
But maybe.
You want any comment from planning, or is that an observation you wish to make to facilitate our decision-making?
We're looking if we have enough information. I would say that on their letter, we don't have sufficient information to tell us why. You know, maybe an architect would understand it, but as a layperson, I'm struggling to understand why or what they are actually asking for out there. Is it you have to build it in sandstone, or is it you have to build it in modern materials? Because either or, it's not clear. I find it an issue with some of the information in that letter.
Okay, thanks for that. Any further comments? Councillor McComb?
I would agree with Councillor Hislop. To me, there's a lack of clarity with regard to what changed between April and June. April, we were told that the comments were generally favourable. The submission took place in June, and then by September, we have this letter from Historic Scotland, which is raising a number of major new points which had never been raised in April with the developer, Historic Scotland appeared to be comparatively satisfied with the draft which was proposed at that time. So, there is an information gap. Were discussions ongoing with the developer between April and June? I don't know.
Yeah, see where you're coming from. Nevertheless, we can park that and bear that in mind and proceed to look at the rest of this documentation, unless anybody else wants to comment on the report and handling, pages 15 to 67. No. Okay, in that case, we move to the third part of the index of contents, which is from pages 69 to 77. Observations of the appointed officer on the applicant's notice of review and further comments from interested parties. Page 69. Everybody happy? Councillor McComb.
There is a letter from the flood risk management team from James MacLeod, page 73. It's a very, very short letter. He makes it clear the flood risk management team were not objecting to the development, assuming certain conditions were met. But he then adds, I am not sure whether these conditions were being met. So that, there's a wee bit of doubt has crept into that letter.
Yeah, I noticed that myself. Can you give us any advice on that, planning officer, Mr. MacLeod's letter on page 73?
I am unsure myself. I'm just wondering if there was a previous. There is a previous consultation from the flood risk team on page 49. That is asking for the following conditions for the developer to demonstrate, which is that the finished floor levels are above the flood level 600 millimetres. Access and egress to the property is out with the flood level. This is a response to request for information regarding development. So it does the point 1 and 2 at the bottom. I assume that's what they're referring to in their second consultation response.
Yes.
With respect, that one was written 2 years previously, 2012.
Perhaps there wasn't much changed, or perhaps the officer perceived it not being. That was speculation. Perhaps your observation is quite certain.
I can't see anything in the documents to say that there has been any may indicate why they're reverting back to the previous. I'll check the relevant sections of the report.
My understanding, Chair, is that the flood risk is being mitigated by building the land up. Is that a correct interpretation?
I believe there is already a natural bund created around where the proposed new dwellings will be. They initially objected to the proposal. The applicant came back with additional technical information to show that this bund is of a similar height to the Carnalloch House level, and so therefore the Dumfries team were concerned that this area to overflow the water would be lost. Technical information showed that it wasn't actually flooded, it wasn't an area that was allowed to be flooded, so therefore.
Any other points? Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Yeah, it was just a point about the letter from David Sutty, Service Manager Planning, page 71, and its relationship to the decision on page 28. Now, it's given there as under point 3, the reason for refusal was based solely on the failure of the proposal to achieve the high standard of design required for the new houses within the curtilage of a Category A listed building. But I think the decision reason sort of gives an additional reason, which is actually also to do with the requirements of the acceptable enabling development requirements as set out in the Scottish planning policy. So I'm just wondering, are we looking at two things here, or one, in terms of the reasons for refusal? Are we being consistent internally, or am I just not seeing an assumption that we're making that a planning officer would take as read?
Can you help us there?
Sorry, I'm reading it as the point 3 of the pointed officer's comments, that it was based on the design, and I would read it as refusal. With enabling development, we would consider it acceptable. We wouldn't consider probably the group of wouldn't be acceptable in open countryside in having detached dwellings in terms of the policy. This is enabling development, so they have to justify that the monies raised from the new build is sufficient or proportionate to what the costs need to do the building up. I think in the officer's comments, I don't think he has any concerns about the enabling aspect. It's more, he's actually supporting the fact that it's enabling, but not at any cost. And the report goes on to say that the concerns about
Councillor Thompson?
Thanks. I mean, I think this is where I got a wee bit confused, because when I read the reason there, it just says that it's the high standard of design that's the reason, and contrary to the requirements of acceptable enabling development as set out in Scottish planning policy. So I'm looking at sort of two reasons there, a sort of double whammy, if you like, which isn't mentioned in the observations of the appointed officer. So again, it was just really, to the layman, I'm reading that and seeing two different reasons there. One's obviously to do with the design, and then maybe implicit in that is enabling development, which earlier in the paper, and under 4.26 in the conclusion there, the principle is acceptable in terms of the enabling development, and it's recognised as being a significant departure from policy, but it can carry sufficient weight given that it's a Category A listed building, etc. So if it's just purely the design, I mean, I'm just looking at that, and it's given 2 reasons for refusal rather than 1. So it's just really just to, is it sort of over-egging the pudding or gilding the lily, or is there 1 reason or 2 is really what I'm getting at.
The main reason for refusal would be the design. It makes reference to enabling development, because enabling development should only be acceptable where it's not contrary to the design, as it were. So it's done on design reasons, but in order to enable, for enabling development to be acceptable, it should have a appropriate design, so they're linked.
Okay. Councillor Hislop.
Could you possibly tell me what is meant by high standard of design required? What is that actually? If I was to come in and say, what's high standard of design? Now, to me, high standard of design would be something like the Ewart Library, where you've got sandstone with detailing and stuff like that. Whereas the officers recommend that simplicity and clean lines of the draft design. What is a high standard of design? Putting it on better paper than coming with just ordinary A4. I don't know. It doesn't give us the information as to what to expect.
Planning officer.
High quality design, partly because everyone has a different opinion, but in terms of assessing it, I would be looking for whether the character of it reflects the existing house. Does it have key themes that you don't have to do a pastiche of it, but does it have common themes? Are the fenestrations similar size? Is there the materials? Is there themes running through it? The scale, does the scale look appropriate for what's already on the site? The form and massing of the buildings. Really, you're just looking to see that the new dwellings can be individual, but they should have some kind of theme that links them to the setting.
Councillor Hislop.
So the proposal is now much more distinctive and individual. It has the potential to be detailed up successfully such that it could now have officer support. Surely linking it to the fenestrations, etc., of the existing would mean that it would be blend in rather than being distinctive. Yet an officer has said that if it's distinctive, which I would say would mean it's totally different. If you take Johnston House, or the Aston Hotel as it was, Holiday Inn, one of the things we were told is not to make it look like it's an extension of the existing building, but to make it look modern and totally out of place because they match. Now, this is making it difficult for me where I've got an officer saying one thing here which is doesn't meet the high standard of design, yet another, take it with the same officer saying it's distinct and individual, therefore it will now move towards getting officer approved.
Yeah, I was hoping the Aston Hotel wouldn't be mentioned. There you go. In any lengthy process, it seems to crop up. Want to make any comments on that?
I think the officer's comments are correct. Can have individuality, but as I said, there can be themes that link it, whether that be the officer's comments say about having the simplicity of design. If you look at the west wing of Carnalloch House, it's quite simple. and then it runs on to the new terrace element, which is not simple. It doesn't follow it doesn't appear to have any link in terms of the openings or the design. I think in terms of material, the proposal involves extensive use of render paint to match the sandstone, rather than incorporating some elements of a higher quality material.
Any other comments on that section? Councillor McCutcheon, you want to? You okay? That's all right. In that case, we'll move on to the next section, which is the comments of applicants, agents, or on observations of the appointed officer, pages 79 to 82. Thankfully, a short section. We should be able to, well, famous last words. Councillor Hislop.
Chair, there's an email on page 82, which is an extract. Now, as I've been going through, I've been very careful which words I've been using. What does the full email say? Because you can make things slant one way or the other according to which parts you pick out. It's just an extract from it. Have we got a copy of the full email that we could see what the context of the design part is?
Do we?
Not here today.
Is it significant? We lost or a bit left out? This pretty fair summary. Were you looking for something significant, Councillor Hislop?
Well, earlier on I said that there was a proposed wording from Historic which was supporting it. I didn't then mention that as long as you did X, Y, and Z, whereby if you take the bit that suits you out of the email, there may be something else in there that would give us additional information as to why things need to be changed, whereas this might support the case, but something that's been left out may change our mind on the actual application.
Yes.
I haven't had sight of the full email, but I would refer you back to the officer's comments in the paragraph 1.3 of the delegated report. It says negotiation on the design of the enabling development was commenced between the applicant and officers during the previous 2008 applications, and thereafter during extensive pre-application inquiry discussions as part of the current application. The latest proposal is the fourth redesign. It's sometimes that when pre-application discussions are taking place, there's not always the full information which comes in with the planning application.
Councillor McComb.
Thanks, Chair. Can I ask, the email on page 82 from DG Planners, did that precede the submission date?
Yeah, governance has pointed out to me on page.
Sorry, I was just going back to the contents listing. The email is listed as part of the agent's response to appointed officer comments. That's not being that's what it is.
Is that number 20, listed number 27 on page, well, it's the second page.
Right, so that is actually a response from the agent, not from DG Planners. That clarifies it. Thank you.
Is that correct? Yes. Thank you. Councillor Hislop?
Here it's headed up email from DG Planners. It's given as evidence from the agent, but it's actually an email from the planners. So surely if we sent it out, either we as the council should have a copy of it, or if we need fuller information, we could ask whether we feel it's necessary for that additional information to come from the applicant.
Are you questioning why it's here when actually the sense of a rebuttal and it's within the...
It's more, I think, for the fullest of information if we saw the full email, because this is specific to one part, and if that second paragraph, that's West Wing, maybe something after that which says if you did this, that, or the next thing, that would mean it does move towards planning approval, whereas currently just sort of stops there. There might be something additional in that email from the officers which would suggest why the officers have moved to refusal.
So you'll be looking to get sight of it. Thank you. Okay. Any more questions on this section? Pages 79 to 82. In that case, we'll move on to the next section, which is pages 83 to 157, planning application form, plans and supporting documents. I'll give you a chance to skim through that. I've been advised that it might be helpful to incorporate the glance at the photographs, which are on pages, well, or we can put them up on the screen. That would be helpful if members would be agreeable to that. Okay. Yes, please.
So the photographs are as in the document, in the order of the document. So this is from the public road looking into the access to the site. This is taken on the access track leading up to the house. And this is the view from the main entrance with the showing the frontage of the main house and then the wing to the left. And this is a closer of now we're looking at the front of Look and to the left where trees are is the proposed site, the new dwelling. And this is taken in at the rear, and we're looking straight on to the location of the proposed terrace to the right. And this is looking again to the rear of the building. On the right hand side is the proposed terrace. Looking across the site, we've got the building on the right hand side. We've got the wing, trees, and the rear indicate logo. As well.
Thank you. Any comments, members? Questions? Could I ask planning officer if you could scan back? Which is that the bit for demolition? Suppose, yeah. Buildings there. Right, thank you. Are we ready to move on? Right, next section is decision notice from the Dumfries and Gallery Council, pages 159 to 163. Any comments? Right. In that case, move on to relevant extracts from the Dumfries and Gallery Local Development Plan, pages 165 to 174. Which, of course, you'll all know absolutely off the heart. Any comments, issues, questions? Right, pages 175 to 181. Well, you've already seen photos on the screen, which have given you hopefully more clarity. Well, these replicate. Yeah. Okay, don't need to delay there then. Grounds of refusal, page. I think we've come to. Yes, we've now come to the end of that section. So, governance. We now go to. Yes.
You should determine whether you have sufficient information at this stage or wish to follow any further.
Right. The members consider they have sufficient information to make a determination today, or do you require further information? Councillor Hislop.
Jim, my big issue is I can't tell you whether what's proposed is a high standard design or not. As was said, it's subjective. That means whether you like it or not. I don't think that gives anybody a clear steer. 5 different people may come to a different decision on that. I don't know if I have enough to tell me what I should be looking for within the design of the proposed 4 villas. Looking at the extension to the west wing doesn't really affect me. The only thing I would say, I would have had a hip roof at either end rather than just one end, the gable at the other. I think that reflects the building that's already there and it would be more in keeping. But I have heard the past that planners like hip roof at one side, gable at the other. Difference. I don't know what that means. But I don't know from reading that. All I've got is the design isn't good enough. Why isn't it good enough? Don't have the colours aren't right. We're using different materials. Well, there's no design guidance there, as in, my thought would have been we would have been looking for a slate roof. usual houses in the countryside are white walled to reflect farm buildings, which are random rubble and whitewashed usually. But then we're told the white render isn't what they're wanting. I find it difficult to actually take, without having that's the reason, that doesn't suit, or the roof levels aren't right, or whatever. I don't think we have enough information to say why it's been turned down. A plan, it doesn't meet high design standards. What are those high design standards? So I'm struggling, but I'll wait and hear from other people, see what they say.
Thank you. Clearly, that's the options available. Side it has sufficient information before it to enable it to determine the review today. What I'm getting loud and clear from you is no, you don't feel you got enough information on the basis of what you've outlined. Councillor McComb?
I would certainly endorse what Councillor Hislop has just said. I feel there is a lack of clarity with regard to what is thought to be good design. I don't think Historic Scotland have helped clarify it either, because they're suggesting either go for contemporary villas, which will contrast with the existing building, or go for a simplified design with the less detail, but at the same time, they highlighted the detail in 1960s borough developments. So I'm really not sure what they're seeking, to be quite honest. I feel considerable clarification is needed. The email on page 82, it does refer to the use of certain materials. It is suggested, for instance, sandstone might be considered, timber cladding should be limited, and zinc paneling may offer an effective alternative. Now, these are all suggestions, but there is a lack of definition as to what is being sought. Is it a contemporary design, or is it a traditional design which matches the existing building?
I hear you, what you're saying, and maybe share my feelings as an ex-schoolmaster. There seems to be an overly large use of the subjunctive may, might, could. So it gave a sort of lack of clarity when you use the subjunctive. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I mean, the uncertainty or the different ways of reading the Historic Scotland position aside, I think what I get the sense of is effectively we're looking at a significant departure from policy anyway because of the enabling development aspect of it. So I think it's really that almost, I would suspect, ups the ante, because in order to sort of justify that departure from policy, you would be expecting the appropriate quality of design, etc., in order to meet that standard, which isn't actually in our LDP, but we're using the standards within the LDP applied to that, I guess. However, you're still left with this, well, how do we know what the appropriate level of quality would be? And it does seem to be very much subjective, so I'm not really, I don't know if you can maybe add something from a planning perspective on that. Thank you.
Can you?
What you've got in front of you is the policy OP1 and policy OP2, which is design quality of new development consideration, which details that development proposals with an historic environment should enhance the appearance, character and setting, and they should relate well to the density, massing, character and appearance. And that's the judgment that the officer has made in their report in paragraphs 4.18, 4.19 and 4.20. And so I think the what's coming through from the officer's report is that this enabling development is, although it's a departure, is supported, but not at any cost. And that's why they're looking for a high quality design. And their assessment of it is made in the paragraphs that I've set out before, against the policies that council's policies. That's what the assessment's been made against. So it's whether consider it to relate well to the scale, density, mass and character, and fit with the setting.
You want to come back and you want to digest that? Of course, we don't have an enabling development policy, council, but it is looked upon favourably by Scottish Government as means to ensure that historic buildings like this don't end up piles of rubble. Well, it wasn't said in so many words in here that gives us flexibility, but on the other hand, muddy the waters. Yes, Councillor McCutcheon.
Thank you, Chair. Can I stop back quiet because I've got a lot of learning to do with this type of stuff. But I just find it difficult to understand if we continue to refuse this. The alternative is what? If nobody buys it, it's going to end up in the ruins anyway. And as you've just said, that really shouldn't be an option. There's a lot in here that I can't quite follow where it's going on. The only person that seems to have an issue is on the design, and that is the council. It's got that. Everybody else seems to be quite happy with it in general. And I'm struggling to agree with the refusal on this. I'll wait and see what the rest of the colleagues say.
Thanks for that. It's not easy. I mean, the sheer volume as well. I sympathise. Right. Anything else? Comments? What we have here is the options available. It's already come out loud and clear. If you look at the sheet we have in front of us, that I think there's some take on board what Councillor McCutcheon said, but also hear what's been said about the concern about the information, or more likely the confusion around the information you have. The second bullet point, request further information in the form of written representations. Are we looking to request further information? Would that assist you, Councillor Hislop in particular? You raised this first.
I think it's down to the fact that if it is subjective, how can you then put it in planning terms? You can't have a tick box for subjectivity. I would like to know why you have turned this down. Well, in my view, that's what you would be getting back. You wouldn't be getting the reason it fails, the standards are X, Y, Z. It would be in the officer's view why it failed X, Y, Z. So if we have the same level of subjectivity whereby we can decide on today whether we think it does meet the term, I don't know if further information would help us, because it may be better just to go to determination today and see how it comes out.
I think governance wants to make a comment.
Thank you. Of course, it's always up for members to decide whether they have sufficient information or not. Chairman was just taking you through the further procedures available. Could ask result to hold a hearing, could ask questions of the Scotland to provide more
The further options are to hold a site visit accompanied or unaccompanied. What does that mean?
Sorry. Accompanied means that you would go on a site visit together as a local review body, accompanied by myself and unaccompanied.
And finally, if the local review body resolves that it has sufficient information and that no further procedure is required, then the local review body has the full powers to uphold, reverse, or vary a determination. The decision notice will include a statement of the terms in which the planning authority has decided the case reviewed. I get the feeling from members that you're anxious, notwithstanding what you've said about your confusion, you're edging towards wanting to make a decision today. Please correct me if that's wrong. Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I've been sort of sitting here digesting, and I think that I would probably want more comfort in terms of, I mean, I just feel that, yeah, we could, I mean, obviously it's within the gift of members to actually come to a decision to uphold, vary, whatever it might be, but I think there's been enough doubt raised and enough potential for at least comfort or clarity to be sought from Historic Scotland, perhaps on what their detailed position is and why that might have varied over time, and whether or not they actually support or don't, you know, the development materials, etc. Similarly, on page 82, just regarding the excerpt from the DG planners, which is obviously submitted as from the applicant, and they've chosen that particular extract, but it sort of opens a door to obviously a sort of chain of correspondence between planners and the developer, which I don't think we're getting the full picture of in terms of what may have changed between 2012 and 2014. And there does seem to be some things that have ticked the box, some things that would appear to have been looking to go that way, but then haven't for some reason. And I don't think the information is there to get a full sense of why that change in mood, if you like, has happened. So I personally would be of the view that I would like a bit more information on a fuller, you know, information in terms of what the planners had been negotiating, if you like, with the developers, and also Historic Scotland's true position. And I think I would be happier proceeding on that basis, but I'm only one of five, so I mean, I'm happy to listen to what everybody else has to say. Thank you.
Thanks for that. That was very clear. I understand where you're coming from. Councillor McComb?
Thanks, Chair. Referring again to this email on page 82. Now, it states there, this is a comment, I assume, on the draft, which was submitted in April of last year. The proposal is now much more distinctive and individual and has the potential to be detailed up successfully so that it could now have officer support. Now, to me, that is a positive comment which is being made. So what happened with regard to the detailing to cause the change of opinion on the part of the planning officer? So, you know, there is information we need to get with regard to that. That also the response of the 9th of September from Historic Scotland. That letter to me is ambiguous. I can't make out precisely what is being sought by Historic Scotland in terms of detail. Are they looking for contemporary buildings which will contrast with the existing Carnalloch building, or are they looking for something which will blend in? It's unclear. So I think that requires to be sorted out as well.
Councillor McCutcheon.
Thank you, Chair. Can somebody tell me what page the response from the agent was on?
The agent. 81? No? 81, 82? Sorry, that's not the agent, that's the...
No.
That's the
I've tried to look, but I
appointed
can't
officer.
find.
Yeah, that the 81, 82 is the agent response to the appointed officer.
Sorry, Chair, it's probably
Are
totally
you
the wrong
looking
one.
for...
There was one actually that had said in part of the response was that it was getting 30% from another, I think it was Heritage Scotland or something.
yes.
And if it was refused, it would lose that, and which means the whole thing would collapse. I'm just wondering if we take more time from today, would that still be lost from today, or do you know where I'm trying? I can't find the wording where I looked at it, but
I know where you're coming from. Will a further delay jeopardise the grant?
Can't really comment on that because we haven't got the details of the timescales for the grant. It's really a separate issue to the planning application process that they get in the grant. And I have no details in here about timescales for, apart from page 81 where he says he mailed.
thank you. That was just what my concern was, because if we make a decision, or we don't make a decision and go for further detail today, then if they do lose that money, then obviously they've stated that the project can't proceed. So it would be a waste of time for us to let it go to another day if it's not going to be able to proceed. That was, I just wanted clarity that that was how I read it, or it was just without my glasses or something.
Thanks for that. It's a fair point to raise. How will a delay the situation? Any further comments? I think I was wrong when I said I thought we were going one way. I've not got any clarity yet. People are still deliberating. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I mean, obviously, I'm taking on board what's been said. Unfortunately, in a sense, it's not our role to determine how developers fund their projects, but it is for us to determine how we make sure we've made the best decision we can with the information we've got. And I think in this case, I feel that we don't have the information, and I think harken back to what Councillor McComb was saying more specifically in terms of information about from Historic Scotland and also from the DG planners in terms of the 2014 correspondence. I think it would be, I would propose that we request that information so we can consider it more fully and make sure we've got as much information as we can, particularly because it all seems to hinge on the refusal being to do with the materials and the quality of design. But it's almost like, there does seem to be a sense that that's all that's stopping it. So if we can get that clarity in terms of the position, then that gives us a better basis to make a decision rather than rush to a hasty judgment today. So is it possible to put that forward as a proposition and ask for that information for us to consider?
That would be possible, Governor.
Of course, members are in agreement how they proceed.
I I don't know if they're all in agreement. We'll need to wait and see.
They're
There
not
might
in
be
agreement.
alternative motion coming forward, but we'll see. Councillor McComb?
I would certainly be happy enough to support the suggestion which Councillor Thompson has made, and I suspect the developer would most welcome clarity with regard to design.
Thank you. Any further comments? To go in there, Councillor McCutcheon.
I'm happy to support my colleagues in it, and I do understand that what I spoke about this new community, like there is something that did jump out at me, and I thought it was a concern for me that they lose this grant, and that was the reason. I'm quite happy to support them. It's not finalised today.
Thank you. What timescales are we looking at here? There's been unconscionable delay as it is, so what we're looking for here is more clarity from Historic Scotland, and also I think the planners and the email on page 82, you feel fuller information from here, and more clarity from these two together. That's what we're looking for. How long will it take for that to come together?
We would have to look at the dates of the next LRBs and the steps following. Back what we'll bring back. Sorry, can I just get clarification? Are you also wanting to see timescale log of the amendments that when they come in and the discussions that have happened as well, so you can see the timeline of events?
Councillor Thompson?
I think this is a case of we don't know what we don't know, so it might be helpful to get a sense of that, and it may or may not be relevant. It may support what's already there, but it may also just indicate when a change might have happened or why. So that would, I mean, if everybody else is so minded, that would be helpful to see as well.
I take it governance that it'll be the same famous five that will deal with it.
Yes,
when it comes
I
back.
was just wanting to come in and provide a bit of clarity on that. By going for further procedure today, that really means that this item, this meeting, is being adjourned and would be on another day, depending on how soon that information is provided. Could be when the next LRB schedule to meet, or it could be depending on availability on the diary, be on another suitable date. This would be basically remembering what month I'm in, the March local review body would be adjourned and being done on another date. The membership of the April local review body wouldn't necessarily be a separate meeting. So what I've got is that basically they're requesting further procedure or further written representation from Historic Scotland to provide clarity basically on their position, given the ambiguity of what they're seeking, and basically with specific reference to the letter of the 9th of September, and you're also wanting information from the planners with particular reference to the change in position from the extract on page 8. You know what corresponds to the decision that they reached.
That's back to Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, and I think just, I'm sure it's what you meant, but just almost like the timetable of correspondence, you know, and being able to track, you know, the toing and froing between the developer and the planner.
Yeah, as you say, you don't know what.
Councillor McComb?
I think, Chair, particularly the correspondence and discussions in the first 6 months of 2014
Thank you. Right. That's. Would members appreciate a break before we move to the next item? Short term for a break in 15 minutes. Back here at 12:05. Councillor McCutcheon.
This is totally a way off this, but if we have a meeting again on the May, near the 15th, then we've all got to come dressed as superheroes. It's a children's charity thing on the 15th of May, just to give them advance notice.
Okay. I'm advised that lunch is ready, but I don't know if you. No, we're not ready for lunch yet. 5 past. We convened. Now go on to item 5. Cutreoch Farm, Isle of Whithorn. Refusal of planning permission for erection of wind turbine. 30 metres to hub height and 46.3 metres to tip height. Formation of hardstanding substation. 14/1/0/5. I shall ask Governance Officer to take us through procedure.
Thank you, Chairman. I will again go through your papers. You have the notice of review and related documents, report on handling and related correspondence, observations of the interested parties and appointed officer on the applicant's notice of review, comments of applicant on observation of the appointed officer and interested parties, planning application form plans and supporting documents, decision notice from Dumfries and Galway Council, relevant extracts from Dumfries and Galway local plan, and photos of the application site and locality. The grounds of refusal are on pages 354 to 355. Number 1, the proposal would have significant detrimental environmental impacts on the surrounding area in terms of landscape, character and visual amenity. As such, it would be contrary to Council Development Plan policy as stated in Dumfries and Galway Local Development Plan Policies IN1 and IN2, Draft Supplement to Guidance, Part 1, Wind Energy Development Management Considerations, and the Dumfries and Galway Wind Farm Landscape Capacity Study. And 2, the design and scale of the proposal is out of scale with its landscape setting. As such, the proposal is contrary to Council Development Plan Policy on Siting and Design as stated in Dumfries and Galway Local Development Plan Policies IN2 and OP2 and Draft Supplementary Guidance Part 1, Wind Energy Development Management Considerations. The requested method of determination, page 192, is that the applicant has requested that the review be dealt with on the basis of further written submissions only with no further procedure. My mind's going back to the previous item. The applicant has requested that the review be dealt with on the basis, basically, of the information that's in your papers only. We have the grounds stated in the notice of review, which are in summary, having evaluated the proposal in the context of both current overarching Scottish government policy and the relevant components of the SPP and LDP, the proposal is compatible with each of the provisions. It is clear that the Council has not acknowledged the considerable weight material considerations offered in support of the proposal. The proposed development would make a contribution towards renewable energy and carbon reduction emissions across the Council area. The benefits of the proposed development outweigh the perceived potential impacts upon the landscape. It's clear from the landscape and visual impact assessment submitted in support of the planning application that the potential impact upon the landscape will not be significant to warrant a refusal of planning permission. The greatest potential impact is thought to be on 2 scheduled monuments. However, Council's archaeologists concluded that this potential impact would be insignificant. The proposal will not contradict LDP policies IN1, IN2, or OP2, draft supplementary Guidance Part 1, Wind Energy Development Management Considerations, or the Dumfries and Galway Wind Farm Landscape Capacity Study. The applicant is willing to accept any reasonable conditions imposed in the interest of the amenity, to manage perceived impacts, and enable development to proceed. The appeal site is acceptable for the development proposals having regard to siting and appearance, landscape and visual impacts, and impacts on landscape character, and all other material considerations. You have the further comments of interested parties, the comments of the appointed officer, and the comments from Defence Infrastructure Organisation, the comments of the applicant's agent on the observations of the appointed officer and interested parties, the relevant development plan policies, and the other material considerations, which include the draft supplementary guidance Part 1 Wind Energy Development Management. Members should note that this guidance is now no longer draft and has been approved by the Scottish Government. So the main issues that the local review body may wish to consider are: does the proposal conform with the relevant development plan policies, with particular reference to LDC policies IN2, OP1, OP2 and NE2? And if not, are there any material considerations which would indicate that planning permission should be granted as an exception to policy? So again, having outlined the documents within the member papers, it now falls to the LRB to determine firstly whether it has sufficient information to consider the review. It's confirmed that there will be no representation from any party. So members are clear, no further clarification is required. I will again ask the chairman to lead the debate, for the first instance to lead the LRB through the papers to decide if they have sufficient information to make a determination.
Thank you. And I will now proceed to going through the papers. So on pages 187 to 217, notice of review and related documents. Are there any points members wish to raise in that particular section? In that case, can we move on to second part of the index of contents, which is the report on handling and related correspondence, pages 219 to 251. Are there any points members wish to raise? Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, it was just confirmation, and I think I kind of already know the answer to this, but in terms of the different typologies, obviously one of the issues is the height of the turbine and what, I suppose how much weight is given to each typology it's considered under. So the small to medium, which is 20 to 50 metres, and then 50 metres above for the medium. And it's 46.3 metres was the proposed turbine, which naturally you would think that falls within the small to medium typology, but because there's a, am I correct in understanding there's a 5 metre sort of variation, if you like, so that if it falls within 5 metres of the limit, you would also consider it under the next typology up? And if so, given that it's less than that, does that just form an additional consideration, but with not as much weight as the typology within which the height fits, if that makes any sense? Thank you.
Governor? Sorry, planning.
Thanks, Chair. Just happy to clarify, the DGWLCS has got a fourfold classification of turbine types. So as you mentioned, you've got small 0 to 20 metres, small medium, which are 20 metres to 50 metres tip height, and then you're actually into the medium proper, which is 50 metres to 80 metres tip height. This application is clearly for a turbine with a tip height of 46.3 metres, so that would fall within the small medium category. As far as the distinction goes, where you're within plus or minus 5 metres of the boundary, if you like, between different types, reference is made to the next typology. So in this case, the case officer in his report has made some reference to the guidance for the medium typology turbine. However, you can't avoid the fact that this is a small medium turbine, so on that basis, the small medium turbine guidance carries more weight. The reason is obviously it would be a bit artificial if you had a turbine that's, say, and that's not the case here, but say it was 49 metres and 1 metre short, and then you've got another one at 50 metres. You know, if you took the rigid approach that there was no kind of blurring of boundary, you would end up with potentially completely different outcomes for turbines that were essentially the same.
Anyone else? Right, in that case, go on to the index of content, section 3, observations of the interested parties and the appointed officer on the applicant notice of review, pages 253 to 260. I've got a particular question to ask planning officer myself. If we look at page 255, reasons for refusal, paragraph 1.1, the note says, given that the site is within the RSA and the conclusions of the report to the effect that the proposal would unacceptably compromise the character of the landscape here, it is considered self-evident that the terms of N2 would also be breached and thus should have been quoted in the reason for refusal. The question is this flagging up an omission should have been put in the refusal?
Yes, that's certainly the way I'm reading that comment. There should have been reference made to policy NE2 in the report and handling, and that would obviously have translated to a quotation of LDP policy NE2 in the reason for refusal. So I'm reading that you know, as being the observations of the appointed officer to update, if you like, the situation. But yeah, essentially it's an omission from the report and it's an omission from the decision notice.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, just further on there, section 2.6, mainly on the top of the page on page 257, where it's addressing the feedback from the archaeologist. And it says there, it's considered that the weight given in the statement to the lack of objection from this consultee is largely irrelevant. And the conclusions reached at the end there, and the consequent reasons for refusal. So it's really just a question, I suppose, to the planning officer: is it appropriate that we're? It seems a wee bit dismissive, but it was just really to get a wee bit of narrative on that, if that's possible. Thank you.
The way I'm reading this comment from the appointed officer is similar to yourself, you know, the council archaeologist. I think what the applicant's starting is that, because the council archaeologist says there would not be any detrimental effect in these sites, then the applicant's saying that would not therefore contradict policy and guidance. You know, it's basically saying, well, there's no objection from that consultee, so that's okay. But I mean, the statement, the way I read it is it's saying it's largely irrelevant in the context of the overall assessment of the proposal undertaken, is because none of the reasons for refusal are on archaeological grounds. So, you know, if the archaeologist doesn't object and that's compliant with policy, it doesn't really affect the officer's view of the case. You know, it's not really an issue, if you like. That's the way I read it.
Thank you. Any further comments, observations, questions? Right, we'll go on to section 4 of the index of contents. Comments of applicant on observations of the appointed officer and interested parties, pages 261 to 263. I think Councillor Thompson anticipated there are actually no comments. So then we go on to section 5, planning application form, plans and supporting documents, pages 265 to 349. Councillor McComb.
Thanks, Chair. With regard to the choice of viewpoints on page 303, now it states the viewpoints were selected following consultation with Dumfries and Galloway Council, and it says to reflect a variety of aspects and to include views experienced by motorists, residents, visitors, walkers, etc. Now, I have to admit to some surprise that there is no viewpoint from the caravan site at Borough Head or from the coastal path, the core path which runs along the top of the cliffs, because both of these locations are comparatively close to the proposal site.
So how were the viewpoints selected?
I'm trying to look at the case officer's delegated report to find out on pages 221 to 222, where it has the background, I'm not really any the wiser from that. I mean, there is a planning history there, which itemises a number of screening opinions, but not anything regarding the discussion that took place about the choice of viewpoints. So apart from what the applicants actually submitted there on page 303, I'm really none the wiser as to what kind of discussion took place at all. I just don't have that information in front of me, I'm afraid.
Anyone else? Right. Can we move on then to paragraph 6 of the index of content? Decision notice from Dumfries and Galloway Council, pages 351 to 355. Can we move on to paragraph 7? Relevant extracts from the Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan, pages 357 to 431. Officer?
Thank you, Chair. It was just a point of clarification. In front of you, you've got relevant extracts from the Dumfries Galloway Local Development Plan. You've also got what's termed Draft Supplementary Guidance Part 1 Wind Energy Development Management Considerations. It's just to let members know of a change in status since the papers were published. That's now been approved, so it doesn't really change the substance of it. It's just really the status that you would give to that in making the decision, but just to give you that update, really.
I wanted to ask, in terms of supplementary guidance, page 379, something that puzzled me. It's basically saying that clusters of turbines could discordant note. The second bullet point down on that page, while one turbine breaching a skyline may be a focal point, a number of diverse structures all spinning at different speeds, or even several grounds or groups of the same type of turbine strung along a prominent or important skyline may become a visual distraction. How likely is it that turbines will be spinning at different speeds, given that we're all clustered? Is that likely, or are we looking at possible further set apart?
It depends on the turbine types. I mean, for example, for those of you that have seen a two-bladed turbine, it generally rotates much more quickly than a three-bladed turbine, although they are most prevalent. Hub height, rotor diameter particularly, will all influence the rotational speed of a wind turbine. I think what the guidance is alluding to is in situations where maybe you've got a small type of turbine, then a larger one, then a very large one. They're all rotating at different speeds, and it's creating visual confusion simply because of the different rotational speed and the kind of strobing effect you sometimes get. So it's mainly driven by a combination of hub height and blade length, but obviously there is a big difference between a two-bladed and a three-bladed turbine as well, if they're seen in combination.
Thanks for that. Have members had time to look through that section? Can we pass on to section 8? Photos of application site and the locality, pages 433 to 40. Oh, do we have some screen? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to run through the pictures for this slight technical error. This is the first view, and again, these replicate the pictures you see in black and white within your papers, although obviously a lot more clearly seen in colour on the screen. This is a general view over the landscape from the northwest looking towards the application site, so it gives you an idea of the kind of character of the landscape, the morphology of it, and the vegetation cover and such like. This is a view over similar kind of landscape and the site from the east, so you can see the kind of grassland character, elements of grazing there, quite a lot of gorse, quite hummocky as well. This is looking towards the site from high ground, and this is looking towards the southeast, so you just see the sea in the distance there, just below the white of the cloud in the horizon. It's obviously quite close to the southern tip of the Machars, in between Burrowhead and the Isle of Whithorn itself. So this is looking towards the Isle of Whithorn. Then you've got again another view of the site looking towards the southeast. Shows you the kind of nature of land cover, topography, so on. And a general view of the landscape in the area of the site. This is looking eastwards. And then the area around the site from the lower level. Very much a kind of rough grazing type landscape. It's a view of the landscape from the U77W public road looking southeast, again towards the site. And another view of the landscape over the site area from the U77W looking generally south. And this again from the same road looking generally southwest, so more towards Burrowhead type direction. Another one as well, much more oblique picture, and again it's showing you that kind of character of landscape. This picture, as you'll note, was taken in February 2015, so after the decision was taken, but we felt it was important to include it today because it gives a different perspective to the site. It's a landscape view looking northeast from the coastal path near Burrowhead towards the application site.
Yes, Councillor McComb.
Would it be possible for the officer to indicate where approximately the site actually is located in the slide?
The location plan's on page 275 of the committee papers. And there's a site plan as well on page 277, but it doesn't really show it in its context. Is it in particular relation to this picture you're wanting the clarification, or just generally?
Generally, simply to indicate where the base of the turbine would be.
Okay. Probably the one I'm best making a reference point from is from the U77W public road then. I haven't visited the site, but obviously I can probably work it out from the map generally that you've got on page 275 and the pictures, so I'll give that a try. The U77W is the road that leads from Tundriggy Road in Isle of Whithorn to the Burrowhead Holiday Park. And when you look at page 275, you'll see in the top right corner you've got the Isle of Whithorn visible there in the harbour. In the bottom left-hand corner, you've got the Burrowhead Holiday Park. And this application site is obviously a lot closer to Burrowhead end, if you like, than the Isle of Whithorn end. Not far from the coast, as I pointed out. The U77W public road, the extension to Tundriggy Road, is broadly halfway up on the left-hand side, and it runs kind of generally kind of east, northeast towards Isle of Whithorn. So that's public road you're looking at. From this viewpoint, this is looking southwest, so it's looking along that road. There's obviously a slight increase in the height at this point. I'm reading the application site as being in the distance, in that kind of area, roughly about there. It is quite set back from the road to the tune of probably about 600 to 700 metres, I would suggest. You know, sitting in that kind of landscape. This one I'm not honestly sure about because I couldn't hand in heart say exactly where that one was taken from. But the ones from the U77W public road are easier to place, if you like, because I know where the picture was taken. I don't know if that helps, but it's difficult because I didn't actually take the pictures myself.
I'll give you some clarity.
So it sits back about 650 metres from the sea, correct?
The way I'm reading the plan on page 275 is in relation to the road, it's probably in the order of about 650, 700 metres from that road. Looking at the actual coast, it's probably similar distance, probably 600 to 700 metres away from the coastal edge. So sitting in between the two.
Any other points in that section?
Again, it falls to members to determine whether they have sufficient information to make a decision.
Councillor Thompson.
I mean, I feel I've got enough information here to come to a decision today. I don't know if that's shared with the other members.
Is that the opinion of the rest of the members? You feel you've got sufficient information? Right. Governors? No, are you mind? Yeah. Are you minded then to accept the decision of the planning? And when otherwise minded? Councillor Hislop.
Yeah, the only thing I have a slight concern with regard to the recommendation is the fact that the reasons for refusal did not include the policy NE2, and I think that should be put in to strengthen the reasons. That's the only change I would make to the rest.
Can we incorporate that in the refusal?
Yes, the reasons for refusal also make reference to supplementary guidance, part 1 being draft, and as our planning advisor has already advised, it's now approved, so when you're reminded to go for the same reasons, your business should reflect that change.
Fine, so that will be incorporated.
Okay, so I can confirm then that the local review body are varying the reasons for refusal, basically for the same reasons as that were in the papers, to exclude the word draft before supplementary guidance and to add in reference to
that acceptable to members? Any other comments? Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, totally in agreement. It was just in reference to NE2, does that then be expanded to acknowledge its regional scenic area, etc.? Yeah.
Fine, thank you. Now, it is now 20 to 1. Don't know if you wish to continue or do you wish to break for lunch? Is the next item. I don't want to prejudge it. What's the opinion of the members? You want to continue? That's fine. Okay. Now turn to item 6. Lochanhead House, Lochfoot. Refusal of planning permission in principle for demolition of existing dwelling house. Is house, the house there. Erection of 2 dwelling houses, installation of septic tank and improvement of existing access. 14 stroke P stroke 2 stroke 072. Ask governors to take us through the procedure.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Before I take you through the papers for this item, I wish to make it known that the objectors on pages 503 and 505 are known to me, but not of sufficient reason for me not to be the person to take you through. So to continue, you have the index of documents, which are the notice of review. You have the report on handling. You have the observations of the appointed officer on the applicant's notice of review and further comments from interested parties. It should be noted that the comments on pages 495 to 505 should have appeared in section 2 of the papers as related correspondence immediately after the delegated report, as they were available to the case officer at the time of determination. You also have the planning application forms, plans and supporting documents, the decision notice from Dumfries and Galloway Council, and the relevant extracts from Dumfries and Galloway plan, photos of the application site and locality. The grounds of refusal are on page 526, that the proposal is contrary to the policy of the Council as stated in the Local Development Plan Policy H3 and to national policy as set out in Scottish Planning Policy SPP, which permits the erection of new houses in the countryside only in special circumstances identified in development plans, and none of these circumstances apply in this case. The requested method of determination on page 448, the applicant has requested that the review be dealt with on the basis of an assessment of the review document only, with no further procedure. The grounds stated in the notice of review are in summary: the existing house is in very poor condition as a result of vandalism, theft and storm damage, to the point where restoration is now a very expensive option. The property has been marketed for sale since 2008 without success. Since then, the house has continued to deteriorate and become increasingly unattractive to purchasers. It's only attracted officers based on its redevelopment potential. Whilst Lochanhead House is of a traditional design, it is an unremarkable example of its type. Can it really be described as significant? Lochanhead is not listed. Houses like this should therefore be allowed to change with time to reflect modern day needs. The type of supporting information being suggested by planners is expensive to undertake and quite daunting for an applicant in the absence of some encouragement that there might be some hope of success. Design. The applicant is trying to establish the principle of development through the application. If successful, the site would be sold on with permission to place and work up a detailed scheme. Criteria to encourage a high standard of submission could be set out in any conditional grant of planning permission in principle. Bat survey. This would be onerous. This would be an onerous cost at the early stage. Conversion and reuse of the building is not practicable or desirable way forward. The house has been marketed as a single dwelling for 6 years, but has failed to sell due to its size, location, and condition. As for conversion into flats, local estate agents confirm there is no market for flats in a location such as this. Lochanhead should be considered suitable as a small building group. The assessment in paragraph 4.11 that it does not meet this criteria seems unduly harsh in comparison with other small building groups locally. Two new houses at Lochanhead could fit well into existing landscape and built form and would be visually prominent, less so than some of the small building groups locally. Lochanhead is similar to other already designated small building groups in the local area, and its acceptance as a suitable settlement does not mean other settlements not currently designated could not be suitable, could also be suitable. Lochanhead House is a potential development site. The settlement of Lochanhead could be considered appropriate for a small development of 2 houses. The plot is not dissimilar to those to the east, containing Lochanhead Wood and Turngreen, as well as Stables Cottage to the west. The existing development is more characterised by medium-sized dwellings such as Bramblewood, Lochanhead Wood and Turngreen. The application site comprises less than 1/3 of the existing site of the building group. The application site is within the settlement, not on its edge, so any development would not increase the overall geographical size of the settlement. It is a brownfield site in the middle of the settlement, a semi-derelict house, resulting in the net being only 1 house. Once the site is developed, there would be no further suitable sites in the settlement. The circumstances would here require a pragmatic and practical solution. The replacement of 1 large house with two smaller dwellings designed in keeping with those around them has no overall increase in the impact on the locality. 2 well-designed houses are better than a rotting shell of a building as an overgrown site of no new development allowed. Suggestion that varied detailed and potentially costly surveys and background reports should be provided at this stage to justify a development overly onerous when planning permission and principle system exists to enable the basic principles of development to be tested. We also have the further comments of interested parties, comments of the appointed officer, comments of the roads planning team leader, comments from Anne and Alexander Anderson, comments from Andrew Clark, and comments from Stephen Trotter and Helen Fletcher. All have appeared in section 2 of your papers. You have the relevant development plan policies, and so the main issues that the local review body may wish to consider are: does the proposal conform with the relevant development plan policies, and critically, does it comply with LDC policy 8 in principle? Does the proposal comply with the relevant guidance set out in the consultative draft supplementary guidance housing in the countryside? And if not, are there any material considerations which would indicate that planning permission should be granted as an exception to policy? Again, having outlined the documents within members' papers, it now falls to the LRB to determine whether it has sufficient information to consider the review. Confirmed, again, that there will be no representation from any party heard today. Again, if members are clear and no further clarification is required, we will then ask the chairman to lead the debate. Give you the papers for the site.
Thank you very much. I'll now do just that, and we'll proceed to the first section of the index of contents, which you will find on pages 445 to 479, entitled Notice of Review and Related Documents. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, it's just a minor detail. It's not really for us to consider, but top of page 448, review procedure. I don't know if this is an old form or we use an online form now, but I think there's now 21 members in the Planning Applications Committee, from which we 5 have been selectively drawn. So it's just, obviously that's maybe a change we can look at so that future forms don't misrepresent how the process works to the public.
Is that correct, Councillor Stace?
The comments, changes will be made.
Councillor McComb.
I'm seeking clarification, Chair. If demolition were to take place, would this then qualify as a rural brownfield site?
Planning Officer.
Yes.
That's an unequivocal answer. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just in the statement of setting out the reasons for review. Page 451, and in the first paragraph, this bungalow Bramblewood is now in separate ownership. It was linked to the hotel by an occupancy condition, but the condition was not enforced, and owner was able to apply for a certificate of lawful use in 2014. Is there any, I mean, is this an enforcement that we as a planning authority should normally have been expected to look out for, or are we able to provide any more information on that?
Any comments, Planning Officer?
Looking at page 484, where it's mentioned in the background to the officer's report at 1.5, the certificate of lawfulness, I mean, essentially, if you can demonstrate a breach of planning control, if you like, that hasn't been challenged over a relevant period of time, such as the case is here, then the certificate of lawfulness is issued. This is about use of the hotel to a dwelling house, and in the case where it's a material change of use of land or a building, the onus is on the applicant to demonstrate that that case has prevailed for at least 10 years, in which case a certificate of lawfulness is issued. So if you like, there's a period of time, and if you can demonstrate that that situation has prevailed for at least that length of time, then you're immune from formal enforcement action, and it becomes what's known as certified as lawful. At the same time, that doesn't mean you've obviously got planning permission for it, so it's still technically unauthorised. It's just, in the eyes of planning law, you can't take any action against it because it's lawful, because of the length of time, the demonstrable length of time that's elapsed. If it's a building, it's a shorter period of 4 years. If you build a garden shed and no one spots it and it needs permission, you can claim your certificate of lawfulness after 4 years, theoretically, of course.
In the back of that, does that mean then when this building is to be a hotel and presumably in the bungalow sold, what's under the radar?
I don't know what the situation was when the hotel and the bungalow was sold, I'm afraid. I just don't know. Sorry.
Councillor McComb?
Thanks, Chair. I think this case illustrates a problem which is all too common in Dumfries and Galloway, where people have elderly properties seriously in need of renovation or whatever, but the costs of renovation may well be prohibitive. So this is sadly not an uncommon situation. But the first item we looked at today was in that category as well. And they come up with a proposed solution. The proposed solution here, of course, is demolition and replacement with 2 dwellings. The problem I've got is that do proposals to demolish require to be supported by an engineer's structural report and by a financial appraisal? Because page 543, renovating or replacing a house. Page 543, yes.
You've strayed into the next section.
Sorry.
I'll allow
I've
it.
jumped. Thank you.
I mean, certainly, if you look at page 543, that is the Council's Local Development Plan consultation draft supplementary guidance on housing in the countryside. So, if you like, that is the Council's statement of what, the detail, if you like, of what they wish to see supporting the LDP. So, when you look at the comments relative to renovation or replacement of a house, that seems to be, the Council's present detailed policy on it. Obviously, as members of the local review body, it's free for you to, make whatever decision you feel appropriate today. But the way I'm reading that is that's the relevant guidance in terms of the local development plan that's embedded in the supplementary guidance. Albeit, I don't think that guidance has been formally approved by Scottish Government yet. So slightly lesser weight than it had been.
Any more comments on pages 445 to 479? Can we move on then to a second section of the index of contents, report on handling and related correspondence, pages 481, 480. I would say, seek clarification at one point, planning officer. Correct to say that a fair bit of weight been put in terms of paragraph 4.5, the need to have documentation around
Yes, the way I'm reading 4.5 of the officer's delegated report on page, I think it's 486, is that they were expecting, they're quoting the draft supplementary guidance, which says applications for the replacement of a listed or significant traditional building will require to be supported by an engineer's structural report and financial appraisal demonstrating to the council's satisfaction that renovation is not a viable option. And then it comments that no such supporting documentation has been submitted. So it's clear that that's what the officer was seeking, if you like, to try and partly justify the demolition.
Any more comments on that section? Right, well, can we move on then to the third part of the index of content, observations of the appointed officer on the applicant's notice of review and further comments from interested parties, pages 489 to 505. Governance has already alluded to the fact, as written here, comments at pages 495 to 505 should have appeared in section 2 of the papers as related correspondence. Sure, you could take that on board, members. So we're looking now at pages 489 to 505. I had a particular question, so I'll go for you're behind me. I'll go first. Regarding the page 492, paragraph 3, suitability of Lochanhead as a small building group. I'm looking for clarification in terms of the new planning guidelines. My understanding was that this gave us a bit more flexibility. Would that be a fair assessment? I'm speaking in general terms, not specific to.
The relevant, all I can really advise on that is your relevant policy is policy H3, and we've obviously referenced the kind of consultative draft supplementary guidance on housing in the countryside. Now you've got both of those documents rather in the papers in front of you, so that really sets out what the position is as far as present policy is concerned. The decision clearly on page 488, when you look at the officer's reasons for making the decision, they're clearly stated about halfway up the page. Now, the officer's view was that the proposal was contrary to the policy of the council as stated in the LDP policy H3 and to national policy as set out in SPP. The other thing obviously that's in the body of the report but not quoted in the reason for the decision is the reference to the draft supplementary guidance. So the documents are there, policy H3 is within the papers, and there's commentary on that within the officer's report as well as the applicant's submission too.
Thank you. Councillor McComb, you had a point.
Thanks, Chair. It's on the same topic which you've just spoken about, the suitability of Lochanhead as a small building group. I think once again this is an area which is very subjective. I looked at the map. There are 5 houses strung out along a roadside. To my mind, that is one of the criteria for a small building group. A sense of place. Well, very, very difficult to define a sense of place. The 5 houses, I think, cover a frontage of about 170 metres. I'm quite sure there are small building groups or there are collections of houses of similar type which are already on the list of small building groups. And I would agree with yourself that policy H3 creates the opportunity for more small building groups to be created. But it is up to the council to actually realise that potential.
Thank you.
Chair, just to comment, I'm not sure if my previous comments were less than helpful. Looking at page 532, what policy H3 says is council will support housing proposals in the countryside where the proposal meets one or more of the following criteria. Now, it's not the only bullet point, but the first bullet point of that is it states is within or well related to a small building group, which is either identified in lists contained in supplementary guidance, which I understand this one is not, or is defined as 3 or more separate habitable or occupied houses which are well related to each other and which create a sense of place. Now, there's an objective element to that. It's got to be 3 or more separate habitable or occupied houses, so you can look at that objectively. The other 2, are they well related to each other? Do they create a sense of place? That's a judgment call, like you say. There is subjectivity there, and you need to exercise a degree of judgment in arriving at a conclusion on that particular point of the policy.
Thanks, I find that helpful. Anybody else in that section? Right, we'll proceed then to part 4 of the index of contents. Planning application form, plans and supporting documents, pages 507 to 521. I'm sure you've all noticed that pages 515 and 516 are an exact duplication of pages 513 and 516. But that still doesn't alter the validity of them. Everybody content with that? Can we go on then to section 5 of the index of contents, decision notice from the Dumfries and Galloway Council, pages 523 to 527. Then can we go on to part 6, relevant extracts from the Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan, pages 529 to 559. I've already made reference to that, but there's your chance to any more comments. That brings us to part 7, photos of application site and the locality, pages 561 to 569. Take it we will be able to colour on the screen.
Yes, Chair, quite happy to run through the pictures. Much easier with this one to identify the actual application site as well, I'm pleased to say. So this is a view, it's approaching the application site from the east. So looking at the location and site plans on page 521 of the papers, You can clearly see Lochanhead House there, the access on the left-hand side, the existing boundary treatment, trees within the application site as well. So the application site's on the left-hand side. You've got a different view. This is looking west across the actual application site from the entrance to the site. So the one that you just saw, which is the road from Lochfoot, which links to Lochfoot, just above the back road from Dumfries. Sorry, the main road from Dumfries to Dalbeattie. This is from the northern site boundary. It's looking towards the southwest across the application site, and it shows the rear of Lochanhead House. So, you know, the opposite of the main elevation. Similar view, it's from the northern boundary. It's looking more southerly across the application site. So as well as quite a substantial building, you've got quite a substantial application site too, and that's evident when you look at the location plan. This is a view. This is looking across the southern part of the application site. So you can see Lochanhead House on the right-hand side and the quite mature and overgrown grounds that you've got there at present. And that's looking north. So this is more towards, if you like, the principal elevation of Lochanhead House. And you can obviously see that the building's not in a good condition from this picture. This is a view broadly from the centre of the application site looking eastwards towards the access. You can just see where the silver car's parked. You've got the entrance beyond that onto the minor road. Again, it's fairly extensive. There's some trees there as well. And that really concludes the photographs.
Thank you. Comments, members? Now falls to me to ask members if you think you have sufficient information before you to make a determination today. Members feel you can go ahead and make a decision. Do you have a proposal from Councillor Hislop?
Yeah, I think looking at this one, the building does come under H3 as it is a significant building prior to 1919, and as such, there's no documentary evidence here today to say it's structurally sound or can't be renovated. Therefore, by that, even to replace the one house with another house, you don't have the evidence. I think the officers were right in the proposal that they put forward. Move that we accept the recommended decision, which was used in the grounds as detailed. Paragraph 1 on page 488, paragraph 5.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. It's actually going back to the page 543 on the draft supplementary guide. On the part about an engineer's structural report, etc., and financial appraisal. And it's actually the wording of the reason for the refusal, which I think in principle seems fair given what information we do have and the information we don't have. But it's the in special circumstances identified in development plans, and none of these circumstances apply in this case. What I feel about that is that H3 does set out what permits the erection of new houses, etc., but it's effectively not the circumstances, because we don't know, the circumstances haven't been determined, as it were. So it doesn't maybe meet the criteria for what H3 is suggesting, but it's the actual, there may be circumstances, it's just they've not been provided. So I don't know if there's a way to word that differently, or if that's me just going away off beam there, I'm not sure. But I'd appreciate a comment from the planning officer if that's available. Thanks.
Planning officer.
it's obviously for members of the local review body to make whatever decision they feel fit today. So what I'm just presenting here is going to be my own view, if you like, but I take the point that's been made in special circumstances, but essentially you're looking at a large part of those special circumstances not being met because of a lack of information. And that's part of the thread for the refusal, obviously, in the officer's report. I'm just wondering whether in brackets after special circumstances you put including a lack of information as required by supplementary guidance and policy H3 in respect of demolition of significant traditional buildings. And then maybe with the second part, so that would be the first mention of special circumstances in reason 1, and then say, and in the absence of that information being submitted, grammatically correct, none of these circumstances apply in this case. Just potential form of words you might want to consider.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's much more elegant than what I just said, so happier to go with that. If obviously that's just my view of it. But.
Councillor McComb?
Thanks, Chair. I would certainly agree with Councillor Thompson that there has been a lack of supporting evidence to indicate that the special circumstances have been met. You know, I think an addition to the wording there would be appropriate.
Sure, that government. I have one issue regarding the application. Take it that we wish to do. So,
Well, yes, as a general rule, I would, in circumstances, if you're minded to uphold the officer's decision, albeit on slightly amended grounds, I would encourage the applicant to try and establish a positive dialogue with the officer. And I've got no difficulty with contacting the service manager and asking him to wish a proactive, positive approach taken by the case officer to try and get a dialogue going with the applicant to try and find a solution to this case. So I can certainly take a note to that effect back.
is that acceptable? I think that's what we want. We all want. Because we realise it's difficult. But of course, we can't. We've got to look at your planning grounds. That's not to say that we don't wish to help. Anybody else? So, what do we have, Governor?
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm the local review body are refusing the application for planning permission in principle, and the reason, they're varying the reason from the appointed officer to include references to the lack of information provided, and I will get that form of word planning advisor.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further business. Thank you for your attendance. I look forward to us convening again in the near future to look at the first item.